When the Riveras first toured Willow Pines Estates, it looked like the kind of neighborhood found in glossy lifestyle magazines. Rows of townhomes lined curving streets shaded by young maples. There was a clubhouse with a state-of-the-art gym, walking trails that looped around a small man-made lake, and at the center of it all, a shimmering Olympic-sized swimming pool framed by palm trees and neat planters. Rosa Rivera remembered gripping her husband Miguel's arm that day and whispering, "This is it. This is where the kids will finally have space to breathe." For Rosa, a paralegal who spent most of her week behind a desk in downtown Raleigh. And for Miguel, who ran a small landscaping business, the pool was more than an amenity. It was a promise. Their twins, 8-year-olds Sophia and Sam, had been taking swim lessons for years in cramped YMCA lanes. The thought of afternoons by a real pool, kids laughing with neighbors instead of sitting indoors on tablets, had tipped the balance when they'd signed the mortgage. Through May and early June, that promise glowed in the background of every day. Boxes were unpacked. Miguel landscaped the backyard. Rosa joined the community Facebook group. The twins rode their bikes around the cul-de-sac shouting greetings to other kids. And every evening, as the sky burned pink and orange, they'd walk to the pool gate to look at the water, still closed for the season but glinting like a sheet of sapphire glass. On the first Monday of June, Rosa woke to the sound of paper sliding under the front door. At first she thought it was a flyer. When she picked it up, her stomach tightened. Across the top, in bold blue letters, it read, "Notice to residents, new pool safety bylaw effective immediately. Due to updated insurance and liability requirements, all persons under the age of 16 are prohibited from using the community pool between the hours of 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. daily. Thank you for your cooperation. Willow Pines HOA Board." Rosa read it twice, then a third time. The kids were still asleep. She set the paper on the kitchen counter and stared at the words. 4 hours, the exact window after school when families could swim. By 9 a.m., her phone buzzed with messages from the neighborhood group. Is this a joke? Does this apply to guests too? They can't just change rules overnight, can they? Miguel came in from the backyard, wiping his hands on a rag. What's wrong? She handed him the notice. He skimmed it, jaw tightening. This is why we moved here, Rosa. They can't do this. That afternoon, she bundled the twins into the car for their first day at the pool anyway. At the gate, a teenage lifeguard hired by the HOA shrugged apologetically and pointed to the notice taped to the glass. "I'm sorry, ma'am. We've been told to enforce it. Kids under 16 after 3 have to leave." Around them, other parents stood in little knots reading the same sheet of paper. Children clutched pool toys, eyes wide with confusion. A toddler cried as his mother led him back to the parking lot. The shimmering blue water lay empty except for 2 lap swimmers. It felt, Rosa thought, like being locked out of your own home. That evening, the HOA posted an official statement on Facebook. "The safety of our residents is our top priority. Due to new insurance mandates, youth swim hours have been adjusted. We appreciate your understanding. No documents. No explanation." Comments poured in faster than the moderator could delete them. At dinner, Sophia poked at her pasta. "But why can't we swim after school?" Miguel tried to keep his voice steady. "They say it's for safety," Sam frowned. "But we're good swimmers." Rosa put down her fork. "We're going to find out what's really going on." The next HOA meeting was scheduled for Thursday night at the clubhouse. Normally only a handful of retirees attended. That evening, the parking lot overflowed. Parents with strollers stood along the walls. Teenagers whispered furiously. At the front of the room, HOA President Marvin Greer, a barrel-chested man with a politician's smile, rapped his gavel. "Order, please. We'll address the pool bylaw at the end of the agenda." Residents raised their hands anyway. A woman shouted, "Why wasn't there a vote?" Another, "Where's the insurance letter?" Marvin repeated the same lines. "Our legal counsel advised us." "Liability risk." Out of an abundance of caution. Rosa studied him from the third row. His eyes slid past hers. She had spent years at a law firm watching senior partners dodge questions. This smelled like a dodge. After the meeting, she tried to approach him, but he and 2 other board members disappeared into a side office. By the time she reached the door, it was locked. Outside, clusters of residents lingered under the street lamps, venting. "My kids are devastated," one father said. "I work till 5. That pool's useless to us now." Another muttered, "They've been itching to privatize it for lessons. Watch. Next thing you know, we'll be paying twice." Rosa tucked the twins into bed and sat at her desk, the notice in front of her. She opened her laptop, logged into the HOA's online portal, and started clicking through the governing documents she'd downloaded when they moved in. Articles of incorporation, bylaws, meeting minutes, insurance certificates. If there was a legal basis for this new rule, she'd find it. Down the hall, she heard Miguel's quiet voice as he soothed the kids. "We'll figure this out, okay? Don't worry." Rosa scrolled deeper, fingers tightening on the mouse. The pool had been sold to them as a shared community resource. Changing access hours required a vote at a properly noticed meeting. She read the clause twice, her paralegal brain parsing each word. No such vote had been held. No insurance requirement had been posted. Somewhere outside, a sprinkler hissed. The house smelled of cardboard from still unpacked boxes. She thought about the children's faces at the pool gate, the promise she and Miguel had made to them about summer afternoons in the water. Rosa leaned closer to the glow of the screen. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's see what you're hiding." And with that, the fight that would consume their summer and change Willow Pines Estates forever quietly began. Rosa's laptop screen glowed long after midnight. Links opened and closed in tabs across the top like a row of watchful eyes. Meeting minutes, state HOA statutes, PDF scans of insurance certificates she'd pulled from the portal. Her paralegal instincts had kicked into overdrive. She told herself she was just checking a few things, but her heart beat the way it did before a big court filing at work. She made notes in a yellow legal pad. No record of a board vote on pool hours. No emergency meeting notices posted as required. Insurance certificate expires in December, not June. Miguel padded into the office, hair damp from a shower. "Still at it?" he asked softly. "I can't sleep," Rosa admitted. "They're lying about the insurance. The certificate on file hasn't changed in 2 years." Miguel rubbed his neck. "Maybe it's something they haven't uploaded yet. Then they should show it to residents," she said. "You don't change a core amenity without telling people why." He studied her for a moment, then smiled wryly. "You always wanted to be Aaron Brockovich," Rosa laughed despite herself. "I just wanted to swim," she said. But even as she said it, she knew the stakes were bigger. This wasn't just a pool. It was the principle. By morning, the neighborhood's Facebook group was a churn of screenshots and angry emojis. Parents shared photos of empty lanes and dejected kids. A retired teacher posted, "This violates our covenants. We need to push back." Another resident wrote, "Anyone have a copy of the insurance letter?" No one did. At lunch, Rosa called the number for the HOA's listed insurance broker. "I'm a homeowner at Willow Pines," she explained. "We've been told new liability rules require limiting pool access. Can you confirm?" On the other end, the woman sounded puzzled. "I'm not aware of any new restrictions," she said. "Your policy's been stable since renewal last December." "Could you email me something confirming that?" Rosa asked. "I'm afraid I can't share client files with non-board members," the woman replied. "But I can tell you nothing in your policy mandates specific swim hours." Rosa thanked her and hung up. She stared at the phone. That was the first crack in the board story. That evening, she and Miguel hosted a backyard swim. A joke, since their above-ground kiddie pool could barely fit 3 children. Still, 5 neighborhood kids showed up. The adults sat in lawn chairs sipping lemonade while the kids splashed. The talk kept circling back to the bylaw. Jeff Kessler, the retired city inspector from 2 doors down, leaned forward. "I've seen this before," he said. "A board wants to bring in an outside vendor so they push residents out to free up the space." "What kind of vendor?" Rosa asked. "Swim lessons, private parties, lifeguard training. You name it," Jeff said. "They sell it as safety, but really it's about profit." A woman named Letitia, a single mom who ran the neighborhood Facebook group, shook her head. "If that's true, it's disgusting. My son's been counting down to summer all year." Trevor, a lanky college student home for summer, pulled out his phone. "I'm pretty good at digging through online filings," he said. "If they signed a contract, there might be a trace in public records. Could you check?" Rosa asked. "Sure," Trevor said. "Give me a day or 2. They sat under strings of backyard lights while mosquitoes buzzed. The children's laughter mixed with the soft plunk of water. In the glow of her neighbors' faces, Rosa felt something click into place. She wasn't the only one angry. This was a group now. The next HOA meeting was even more crowded than the first. Marvin Greer opened with his usual smoothness. "We understand residents' concerns," he intoned. We're in active discussions with our insurer. Then show us the letter, someone shouted. We cannot release private legal correspondence, Marvin said. Jeff raised his voice. You passed this bylaw in an emergency session. That's not allowed under state statute. Marvin banged his gavel. 2 minutes per speaker, please. We have other business. Rosa's turn came. She held up her legal pad. There's no record of a vote. Your insurance certificate hasn't changed. We have the right to know why our children are banned from their own pool. We appreciate your input, Marvin said, already turning to the next item on the agenda. Frustrated murmurs rippled through the room. Rosa sat down trembling. The board was stonewalling, but as she glanced around at the residents' faces, angry, determined, she felt a surge of resolve. They weren't going to let this drop. That night, back at Jeff's garage, the pool committee had its first unofficial meeting. The ping-pong table was covered in printouts, minutes, covenants, insurance policies. Jeff had brought a big thermos of coffee. Letitia brought cookies. Trevor sat cross-legged on the floor with his laptop, typing furiously. I searched county records, Trevor said. 3 weeks ago, the HOA filed a permit for extended pool use with something called AquaGuard Swim School. That's a private company. They've got ads for exclusive community partnerships. Rosa's eyes widened. So while our kids are locked out, they're running classes? Looks like it, Trevor said. And guess who the registered agent of AquaGuard is? The vice president's brother-in-law. Gasps went around the room. Jeff whistled low. Conflict of interest. Classic. Letitia took a photo of the screen with her phone. People need to see this, she said. Wait, Rosa said. If we post it now, Marvin will just threaten us with defamation. We need more than a screenshot. We need the contract, Jeff nodded. I can file an open records request with the state HOA oversight office. They can compel disclosure of vendor contracts. Do it, Rosa said. They worked late organizing tasks. Jeff would handle the request. Letitia would quietly prime residents in the Facebook group. Trevor would keep digging for more evidence. Rosa would research state law on recall elections just in case. When the meeting finally broke up, Rosa walked home under a moonless sky. She felt exhausted but strangely exhilarated. The pool was still off limits, but something new was stirring, a sense of shared purpose. In her mind, she could see the children's faces at the gate, and she promised herself she'd see them swimming again before summer's end. Inside, Miguel had left a mug of tea on her nightstand. A note beside it read, "We're with you." Miss Rosa sat on the edge of the bed, tea warming her palms. She had no illusions this would be easy. The board would fight back. But the first step had been taken. They had found the paper trail, and with it, a glimmer of hope. Jeff's garage smelled faintly of motor oil and sawdust, the way most garages do, but by mid-June it had become something else entirely, a war room. A folding table and 2 mismatched chairs had been dragged in from the backyard. The ping-pong table was buried under manila folders, highlighted contracts, and empty coffee mugs. A corkboard leaned against the wall with red string connecting names, dates, and logos. In the corner, Trevor's laptop hummed softly, casting a bluish glow on his face as he typed. Rosa set down a grocery bag of snacks and took her seat. Any news? Trevor spun the laptop toward her. I traced AquaGuard's corporate filings. It's definitely the vice president's brother-in-law. And look at this. Their business model is exclusive community partnerships. They charge premium rates because they guarantee no public access during lesson times. Jeff let out a low whistle. So they clear out the pool under the guise of safety and then rent it back to us. Letitia scrolled through her phone, lips pressed tight. People are going to explode when they see this. Not yet, Rosa said. We need the actual contract, not just circumstantial evidence. Jeff raised a thick envelope. Already on it. I filed a records request with the state oversight office last week. This came today. He slid out several pages stapled together and began reading aloud. Service agreement between Willow Pines Estates HOA and AquaGuard Swim School, dated May 14th. Exclusive use of pool between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Compensation $22,000 for summer season. Gasps filled the garage. Letitia's phone clattered onto the table. Rosa took the papers and scanned them. There it was in black and white, the scheme she'd suspected. And no disclosure to the membership, she murmured. This violates at least 3 provisions of our bylaws. Jeff jabbed a finger at the signature line. Marvin signed it himself. Trevor leaned back in his chair. They've basically privatized our pool for profit. Letitia stood up, pacing. We have to tell everyone, Rosa hesitated. If we just post this online, they'll call it fake or say we stole it. We need to present it formally at the next meeting. When's that? Jeff asked. 2 weeks, Rosa said. That's plenty of time to organize. They spent the rest of the evening planning. Letitia would quietly alert trusted residents to attend. Jeff would draft a one-page summary of the contract for easy understanding. Trevor would prepare slides showing the timeline. Rosa would draft a statement citing the specific bylaws and state statutes violated. As they worked, the mood shifted from outrage to determination. They weren't just angry parents anymore. They were investigators building a case. When Rosa finally left, the night air smelled of honeysuckle. She walked past the darkened pool. Through the chain-link fence, she could see AquaGuard's banner rolled up near the lifeguard stand, ready for the next day's lessons. The water rippled under the security lights like a secret being whispered. She shivered. The next morning, a new ripple of tension hit the Facebook group. Residents who had posted complaints about the pool suddenly received violation notices. Improper trash can storage. Weed growth over 3 inches. Unauthorized lawn ornament. Letitia messaged Rosa. They're retaliating, Rosa sighed. Classic intimidation, she texted back. Document everything. By Thursday, Rosa herself received a letter citing unapproved backyard play equipment, the kiddie pool they'd used for neighborhood kids. She pinned the notice on her fridge like a badge of honor. Miguel frowned. They're playing dirty. They're scared, Rosa said. That means we're onto something. That weekend, the committee met again. Trevor had compiled a slideshow with crisp graphics. Here's the money shot, he said, clicking to a slide showing Marvin and the vice president side by side with AquaGuard's LLC filings. Conflict of interest right there, Letitia grinned. This is going to blow up, Jeff added. I talked to a friend at the county attorney's office. He says our residents can petition for a special election to recall board members. We need 33% of owners to sign. Rosa's heart thudded. A recall election. She'd read about them but never imagined leading one. Let's focus on the meeting first, she said. We present the evidence. We demand repeal of the bylaw and disclosure of all contracts. If they stonewall, then we start the petition. They rehearsed Rosa's statement like a courtroom opening. She stood at the garage door reading aloud while Jeff timed her. Trevor fine-tuned the slides. Letitia tested a live stream app on her phone. The garage echoed with the sounds of printer whirs and staplers snapping. As the meeting approached, Rosa felt the weight of expectation. Neighbors stopped her on walks whispering, "Thank you, and we're counting on you." Even Sophia and Sam sensed something big. Are you going to fix the pool, Mom? Sam asked one night as she tucked him in. I'm going to try, she said softly. On the day of the meeting, storm clouds gathered over Willow Pines. The clubhouse parking lot overflowed. People stood shoulder to shoulder inside, fans whirring overhead. Someone had taped a "Let Us Swim" sign to the podium. Marvin looked rattled. His usual politician's smile flickered as he scanned the crowd. We'll begin with routine business, he announced. Start with the pool. A man shouted. Cheers erupted. Marvin banged his gavel. We will maintain order. One by one, residents stepped up to the microphone telling stories of ruined summers, angry kids, and skyrocketing HOA fees. Marvin repeated the same lines: insurance, safety, legal advice. Then Rosa approached the microphone. She felt the room hush. Miguel squeezed her hand as she passed. She set her binder on the podium and looked straight at Marvin. My name is Rosa Rivera. My family moved here for the pool. Like many of you, we received a notice banning our children from using it after 3 p.m. We were told it was for safety. That was not true. Murmurs rippled. She held up the contract. This is the agreement you signed with AquaGuard Swim School. It grants exclusive use of our pool during those hours for $22,000. Nowhere in our bylaws or state law is such a contract authorized without member approval. This is a conflict of interest and a violation of your fiduciary duty. Gasps. Phones lifted to record. Rosa went on, citing specific sections, displaying Trevor's slides on the projector. Red arrows connected board members to AquaGuard. Jeff handed copies of the contract to residents in the front row. Letitia's live stream ticked up to hundreds of viewers. Marvin's face reddened. You're out of order, he barked. This is privileged information. No, Rosa said, voice steady. This is our information. We pay for this pool. We pay for this board. And we demand transparency. The room erupted in cheers. Marvin banged his gavel, but the sound was drowned by chants. Let us swim. Let us swim! Rosa stepped back from the microphone, heart hammering. She caught Miguel's proud smile. In that moment, she knew the tide had turned. Whatever happened next, the residents of Willow Pines were no longer passive. They were a movement. Later that night, Rosa sat at her kitchen table scrolling through Letitia's live stream. Hundreds of comments from viewers across the county poured in. Typical HOA abuse. Fight back. Recall them. Reporters were already messaging for interviews. Miguel came in with 2 mugs of tea. You were incredible, he said. I was terrified, she admitted. But you did it anyway. She looked at the twin swim bags hanging by the door. We're not done yet, she said. They're not going to give up easily, he nodded. Then neither will we. Outside, thunder rolled. But for the first time all summer, Rosa felt a flicker of hope strong enough to warm her from the inside out. The morning after the bombshell meeting, the Willow Pines Facebook group was like a beehive hit with a stick. Letitia's live stream had racked up thousands of views overnight. Local blogs reposted screenshots of the AquaGuard contract. A reporter from the county's biggest news outlet DM'd Rosa asking for an interview. Yet, despite the public embarrassment, Marvin and the board didn't repeal the bylaw. An email went out instead. The board takes all resident feedback seriously. We are reviewing the AquaGuard partnership and will provide an update at the next quarterly meeting. It was a classic stalling tactic. Rosa knew it. Jeff knew it. Everyone on the pool committee knew it. If they waited until the quarterly meeting in September, summer would be over, and AquaGuard's contract fulfilled. By then, the outrage might cool and the board could ride it out. We can't wait, Jeff said at their next strategy session in his garage. We have to force the issue. That means a special meeting, Rosa said, flipping through the bylaws. We need a petition signed by at least 1/3 of homeowners to compel it. Letitia tapped her phone. We already have over 200 people on the Facebook group saying they'll sign. Trevor raised a caution. Marvin's not going to take this lying down. The notice is the intimidation. It's only going to ramp up, Rosa exhaled. We knew that when we started. Over the next week, Willow Pines looked less like a placid subdivision and more like a political campaign ground game. Volunteers went door to door with clipboards. Kids designed "Let Us Swim" flyers and taped them to mailboxes. Someone printed t-shirts reading "This pool belongs to us." Retirees offered to notarize affidavits for free. A local news van began parking at the entrance, and as predicted, retaliation escalated. Rosa received a second violation letter claiming her porch light bulb was the wrong color temperature. Jeff found a "Stop now or else" note tucked under his windshield wiper. Letitia's internet mysteriously went out for 2 days, but every act of petty intimidation seemed only to harden the residents' resolve. Signatures poured in. Within 10 days, they had 40% of owners, more than enough. They submitted the petition to the HOA's management company with a cover letter from Rosa, citing the exact section of state law that required a special meeting within 30 days. They requested it be held at the clubhouse on July 28th. The evening of July 28th, the clubhouse was unrecognizable. Residents packed the hall shoulder to shoulder, spilling into the lobby and out onto the patio. Someone had brought a PA system. Reporters with press badges wove through the crowd. Children held signs reading "Let Us Swim" and "Honesty Now." At the front sat Marvin Greer and the remaining board members, looking like captains on a sinking ship. Marvin's usual tan face was pale. He banged his gavel, but the sound barely carried over the chatter and the hum of camera equipment. "We will now come to order," he said, voice taut. "This is an official meeting of the Willow Pines HOA, called pursuant to the members' petition. Please everyone remain calm." Rosa stood near the front row, binder in hand. Miguel squeezed her shoulder. Jeff sat on one side with his summary sheet. Letitia had her phone mounted on a small tripod, streaming live. Trevor sat cross-legged at her feet, laptop open to display slides. Marvin tried to control the agenda. "The board is still evaluating options regarding the pool," he said. "We cannot discuss ongoing contractual matters." "Point of order," Rosa called out, her voice steady. "According to Section 4.3 of our bylaws, the purpose of this special meeting is to vote on the repeal of the June 1st pool bylaw and to consider a recall of certain board members. We're not here for an update. We're here to vote!" Applause erupted. Marvin's jaw tightened. Mrs. Rivera, you're out of line. No, Rosa said, stepping to the microphone. We're finally in line. With the law. She opened her binder and spoke clearly into the microphone. She read the timeline of the AquaGuard contract, citing dates and amounts. She quoted the conflict of interest provision and the fiduciary duty clause. She held up the contract and read the signature line. Marvin L. Greer, HOA President. While our children were shut out of their own pool, she said, voice rising, this board handed exclusive access to a private company owned by the vice president's brother-in-law. You called it safety. It was profit. It was deception. And it stops tonight. Phones went up. Reporters scribbled. The crowd erupted in cheers. Jeff took the microphone next. Under North Carolina HOA statute, he said, members have the right to demand transparency and to recall board members who breach their duty. We've met the threshold. Tonight we're exercising that right. Marvin's gavel slammed. This meeting is adjourned. No, sir, Rosa said calmly. This meeting belongs to the members. We're proceeding with the agenda. The room thundered with applause. Even some of the board members shifted uncomfortably. Letitia's live stream comments flew past. Get him. This is gold. Recall vote now. A motion to repeal the pool bylaw was made and seconded from the floor. Marvin refused to recognize it, but residents began chanting, vote, 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 until he had no choice but to allow a show of hands. Nearly every hand in the room went up. The bylaw was repealed on the spot. Then Jeff read the recall petition aloud. We, the undersigned homeowners of Willow Pines Estates, hereby demand the removal of Marvin Greer, President, and Douglas Palmer, Vice President, for cause. Cheers shook the walls. Ballots were passed out, tallied under the supervision of 2 volunteer accountants. Letitia broadcast every step. When the count came back, it wasn't even close, 78% in favor of recall. Marvin and his ally were removed effective immediately. For a moment, the room was silent. Then it erupted, clapping, whooping, kids jumping up and down. Someone started chanting, let us swim, again. And soon the entire hall was echoing with it. Marvin shoved papers into a briefcase. You'll regret this, he muttered, pushing past Rosa on his way to the door. She met his eyes calmly. We already regret trusting you, she said. He left without another word. Later, outside under the streetlights, neighbors hugged each other. Jeff's wife handed out cookies. Miguel lifted Sophia onto his shoulders. Reporters thrust microphones toward Rosa, but she just smiled and said, this was a team effort. Letitia texted her a screenshot. Their live stream had hit 10,000 viewers. Trevor looked exhilarated but tired. That was insane, he said. Rosa exhaled, feeling the weight lift. We're not done. We have to run a fair election to fill the vacancies. We have to audit the books, but at least now the pool belongs to us again. Down the block, the pool lights glowed softly through the fence. For the first time all summer, the water didn't look like a locked-up secret. It looked like a promise waiting to be kept. The morning after the special meeting, the clubhouse parking lot still smelled faintly of spilled coffee and adrenaline. Ballot boxes sat stacked in a corner, waiting for disposal. Someone had left a handmade sign on the clubhouse door. Our pool, our rules. For Rosa, the high of the previous night quickly gave way to a sober realization. Ousting Marvin and his vice president was only the beginning. The board now had 2 empty seats, a suspended budget, and no clear plan for what to do with the AquaGuard contract. If they didn't move fast, the chaos could backfire and the whole association could descend into legal limbo. She sat at her kitchen table with a legal pad, listing tasks, draft a temporary policy for pool access, meet with the management company about the contract, organize a fair election for the 2 vacant seats, prepare a budget review. Miguel came in with coffee. You were a lioness last night, he said softly, but you also need to rest. I will, after we fix this, Rosa murmured, scribbling. That afternoon, the ad hoc pool committee met again in Jeff's garage. The mood was upbeat but determined. Letitia brought cupcakes decorated like beach balls. Trevor had designed a logo for their informal group, a cartoon swimmer punching through red tape. Here's the good news, Jeff began. Because Marvin signed that AquaGuard contract without a proper vote, it's voidable under state law. We can terminate it for cause without paying penalties. Applause broke out. Rosa allowed herself a small smile. And we're already drafting a fair access policy. Families can start using the pool again by the weekend. Trevor raised a finger. But remember, AquaGuard isn't going to vanish overnight. They've got equipment at the pool. Some staff are still scheduled. They might try to sue. We'll handle it, Rosa said firmly. Right now, transparency is our best weapon. We post every document, every update in the group. No more secrets, Letitia nodded. And we need to get the word out beyond Facebook. Flyers, door hangers. Not everyone's online. They spent the next hour dividing tasks. Rosa and Jeff would handle legal correspondence. Trevor and Letitia would manage communications. Miguel would coordinate volunteers. By the end of the meeting, they had a plan. Over the next week, Willow Pines transformed. Volunteers walked the streets with bright yellow clipboards, explaining the upcoming election and inviting neighbors to run for the vacant seats. The kids from the Let Us Swim group set up a lemonade stand to raise money for printing flyers. Retired residents offered their garages as mini offices. Someone even donated a portable speaker for future meetings. Every evening, Rosa and Miguel took their children for a stroll around the now unlocked pool. Sophia would press her face to the fence, watching the moonlight ripple across the water. "Can we swim soon?" she asked one night. "Soon," Rosa promised. Very soon, but not everything was cheerful. On the third day, Rosa came home to find a letter taped to her door. No envelope, just a single sheet of paper typed in bold. "You're making enemies. Stop before it's too late." Her stomach tightened. She showed it to Miguel. "Do we call the police?" He read it twice. "It's probably just a scare tactic," he said, but his jaw was set. "Still, I'll install a camera by the door tonight." Jeff received a similar letter the next day, with a crude drawing of a sinking pool. Letitia's car tires were slashed. The intimidation was real, but instead of fracturing, the neighborhood closed ranks. Neighbors offered to walk each other home from meetings. Volunteers formed a watch group. Someone started a Support Rosa thread in the Facebook group, flooded with messages of gratitude. "This is exactly what Marvin misjudged," Jeff said at their next meeting. "He thought fear would scatter us. But it's doing the opposite." By mid-July, the election campaign was in full swing. 3 candidates stepped up for the 2 open seats. A retired Navy officer named Ellen Parks, a high school teacher named Javier Martinez, and a stay-at-home dad named Brian Keating. Each hosted small meet-and-greets in their driveways. Rosa refused to endorse anyone, but she attended every event to answer questions and encourage participation. At one such gathering, an elderly resident named Mrs. Douglas took Rosa's hand. "I've lived here 30 years, she said. "I've never seen neighbors come together like this. You should be proud." "I am," Rosa said, feeling a lump in her throat. "But it's all of us. This is what community is supposed to be." Meanwhile, AquaGuard began quietly removing its equipment from the pool deck. The company's regional manager sent a terse email threatening legal action for defamation, but took no further steps. Without Marvin shielding them, their leverage evaporated. On July 25th, 3 days before the election, the pool officially reopened under a temporary open access policy. Rosa arrived at dawn to see families already lining up with towels and floats. The gate clicked open and a cheer went up. Children dove in, splashing water high into the air. Parents clapped. Someone cranked a portable speaker playing upbeat music. It felt like a block party. Letitia live-streamed the first plunge. "This," she said into the camera, "is what happens when neighbors stand together." Rosa sat on a bench watching her daughter swim for the first time all summer. Miguel squeezed her hand. "You did it," he whispered. "We did it," she corrected. That evening, after the pool closed, the committee met one last time before the election. They were tired but happy. Trevor handed out printed copies of their progress list, now full of check marks. "We've come a long way," Jeff said. "But let's stay focused. Elections decide what happens next. We need a clean, transparent vote," Rosa nodded. "And once the new board is in place, I step back. I never wanted to run things. I just wanted fairness." Letitia grinned. "Fairness and a little sunshine," they laughed. For the first time in weeks, the tension eased. Outside, the crickets chirped and the pool lights glowed. Somewhere in the distance, a car door slammed, but no one flinched. They were no longer just a handful of upset parents. They were a neighborhood, awake and united. 3 days later, ballots were cast under the supervision of volunteer observers. When the count came in, Ellen Parks and Javier Martinez won by a landslide. Both pledged to maintain open meetings, post all contracts online, and work with residents on future policies. That night, Rosa sat at her kitchen table and finally closed her binder. She didn't throw it away. She knew the fight for transparency never really ended. But for the first time all summer, she felt the weight lift off her shoulders. The pool outside was quiet, reflecting the stars. Tomorrow, she thought, we swim. The first official day under the new board dawned with a sky so blue it looked painted. Rosa woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of her children already rifling through a bag of pool toys. Miguel had spread towels on the kitchen chairs like banners. "We're early," he said with a grin, "but I figured we should be the first ones in line." For the first time in months, Rosa didn't feel a knot in her stomach. The recall was over. The election had gone smoothly. Ellen and Javier had been sworn in the night before and immediately passed a simple, clear pool policy. Open access to all residents, with safety monitors funded transparently out of the HOA budget. The AquaGuard contract had been formally voided. Their last truck had rolled out at dawn. When they reached the pool, it was already alive. Dozens of families milled about under shade umbrellas. Children squealed, clutching neon floats. Neighbors who had been strangers in May now waved to each other as if they'd been friends for years. A banner stretched across the gate. "Community Pool Reopening Celebration. All welcome." Letitia stood near the entrance, phone in hand, recording. "Look at this turnout," she exclaimed. "We're trending locally. Channel 7 is on their way." Inside the gate, volunteers had set up tables of snacks and coolers of lemonade. Someone had rented a bubble machine that sent iridescent orbs drifting across the deck. A DJ played upbeat tracks from a small speaker. It felt like a festival. Ellen Parks, the retired Navy officer, stepped up to the microphone near the diving board. Her voice carried easily. "Neighbors, friends, fellow swimmers, today we mark not just the reopening of our pool, but the beginning of a new chapter for Willow Pines. This is your association. These are your rules. And this," she gestured to the water shimmering behind her, "is your victory." Applause thundered. Rosa felt tears prick her eyes. Javier Martinez followed with a short speech in both English and Spanish, promising open meetings, online posting of all contracts, and quarterly budget reports. "No more secrets," he said. "This is your money, your neighborhood, your voice." Then, as a final flourish, Ellen held up a giant pair of ceremonial scissors and cut a red ribbon strung across the shallow end. The crowd cheered. Children surged forward, cannonballing into the water. The DJ cranked up the volume. Sunlight glinted off the waves. Rosa kicked off her sandals and sat on the edge of the pool, dipping her feet in. Miguel lowered Sophia into the water while Lucas strapped on his goggles. The smell of sunscreen and grilled hot dogs filled the air. For a moment, she just closed her eyes and let the sound of laughter wash over her. Letitia plopped down beside her, camera off for once. "Feels good, huh?" "It feels right," Rosa said. "Like this is what it was supposed to be all along." Jeff ambled over, carrying 2 lemonades. "No violation letters in the mailbox this morning," he joked, handing her one. "Feels weird." They clinked cups. "I hope people remember this feeling," Rosa said. "Because it's easy to get complacent. That's when things slip." "They'll remember," Jeff said. "You gave them something to remember." Later in the afternoon, a news crew arrived. The reporter interviewed parents, kids, and the new board members. When they asked Rosa for a quote, she simply said, "We're just neighbors who stood up for fairness. Anyone can do it." That night, the segment aired on the 6 o'clock news. Homeowners fight back. Reopen community pool. After HOA scandal. Clips of kids splashing under the headline, "Neighbors Take Action," played across the county. Rosa's phone buzzed with texts from friends outside. "Willow Pines. Saw you on TV. You're an inspiration. Can you help our HOA next?" She laughed and set it aside. As the sun dipped low, the celebration wound down. Families packed up towels and coolers, promising to see each other tomorrow. Volunteers stacked chairs. The DJ played one last slow song while bubbles drifted over the quieting water. Rosa stayed behind a few minutes, watching the last ripples fade. Ellen and Javier approached, both looking tired but happy. "Thank you," Ellen said simply. "We couldn't have done this without you." Rosa shook her head. "I'm just glad it's back where it belongs, and I meant what I said. I'm not running for the board. I'll still help, but this was never about power." "That's exactly why people trust you," Javier said. "You reminded everyone what this place could be." They left her alone with the pool. The lights came on, casting the water in a soft turquoise glow. She could see her reflection, tired but smiling. Beyond the fence, The houses of Willow Pines were bathed in the same warm light. She thought back to that first meeting in Jeff's garage, to the violation letter on her door, to Sophia's disappointed eyes when the pool was locked. All of it seemed like another lifetime. The fight had been exhausting, but it had also transformed them. They were no longer isolated homeowners, each dealing with their own grievances. They were a community. She slipped off her sundress, revealing a swimsuit underneath, and stepped into the shallow end. The water was cool and clean. Miguel joined her, then the kids. For a moment, they floated together under the darkening sky, the pool lights glimmering like stars below the surface. Sophia whispered, "This feels like magic." "It's not magic," Rosa said, hugging her close. "It's us." In the weeks that followed, Willow Pines settled into a new rhythm. Open meetings were held in the clubhouse every month, streamed online for anyone who couldn't attend. Budgets and contracts were posted on a public drive. The pool became a hub not just for swimming but for cookouts, movie nights, and spontaneous neighborhood meetings. Trust, once broken, slowly rebuilt itself. Other HOAs in the county reached out to learn how they'd done it. Rosa helped draft a short guide. 5 Steps to Transparency for Homeowners Associations. Jeff joked about turning it into a podcast. Letitia's videos from the fight amassed hundreds of thousands of views, with comments like, "We're going to do this in our neighborhood too." On an August evening, as summer waned, Rosa sat poolside watching the kids chase each other across the deck. She felt tired, yes, but also proud. This was no longer just a pool. It was proof that ordinary people could stand up, tell the truth, and win. The water lapped softly at the tiles, as if applauding.